World Series is set, and that means there's potentially 7 games left in the season, maybe less. But it also means that free agency is right around the corner. And the Cubs are certainly going to want to add to the rotation when you take a look at some of the starting pitching that's available in free agency and what the Cubs have set to come back. We're going to talk about a few of those guys that the Cubs may be interested in. I don't know if it was karma or not, but after being swept by the Dodgers in the championship series, Pat Murphy talked about how difficult that Cubs series was for Milwaukee. Some Cubs in Arizona Fall League action and the Cubs first-round pick, Ethan Conrad, making some progress. All that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, be a part of what we're doing, and let's get this party started. We talk Cubs baseball every day here, at least we try to, and we appreciate you being here. Go Cubs. Hey, everybody, Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball Channel, and a pleasure to talk about the Cubs with you today as we get closer and closer to free agency. Make sure you hit that QR code right there and join AveD. You get to play games, you get to win cash, you get to win swag. We started giving away these hats, our first batch of swag, and we want you guys to have some of these as well. So all you got to do is sign up, get in the comments section, tell me what the experience is like, and be part of Mick Nation at AveD. We appreciate those guys so much, just as much as we appreciate you guys. Starting pitching is going to be a premium. It always is when you talk about baseball teams. And I thought last year the Cubs did a phenomenal job of building depth when it comes to free agency and when it comes to what they had in the system. I mean, they didn't really have, I don't feel like a bunch of aces, but they had a lot of guys that could help them. And until we got to the postseason, you look at it and the Cubs were one of the best teams in baseball starting pitching wise. And there were a lot of rumors as far as guys that the Cubs could be interested in. Heard that they wanted to trade with Cleveland for Shane Bieber. He eventually was dealt to Toronto. You kept hearing that the Cubs were interested in Dylan Cease. He's a free agent now, just like Bieber, the former Cy Young Award winner. Cease almost won the Cy Young Award. We saw him in the postseason for Seattle, a former Cubs minor leaguer. He's someone that they may be interested in. Would you want to maybe like a Jack Flaherty? How about Zach Gallen? We talked about him an awful lot. Merrill Kelly, he's an older guy, but maybe figured it out late in his career. Patrick Corbin's a guy that's a free agent. Adrian Hauser, another name that was linked to the Cubs. Michael Soroka, any interest in bringing him back? I say no. John Gray, remember him? He was a guy that was drafted right there with Chris Bryant in that draft. He's a guy. And there's some other ones that are available as well. Nick Martinez, Framber Valdez. Like you look through the list, and there's even other guys. Are the Cubs going to try to attack maybe some of the hotter names in free agency for starting pitching? I'm curious to see how this goes. Because the first thing you do is you say, well, who's available? And then you start looking at what the Cubs have pitching-wise. Where would these guys fit in, right? The Cubs really haven't gone after the top-tier arms. They've kind of been in the middle with guys like Shota Imanaga, who was coming from Japan. He was a little older than Yamamoto. Although I think the Cubs wanted him. Sasaki, they certainly wanted, that you could have got him at a discount. He ended up with the Dodgers. Jameson Tyone, Matthew Boyd, remember him last year? Turned out to be a great pick. But when you look at the rotation and you start to ask yourself, what are the Cubs going to look like as far as their frontline pitching? And then how is that going to affect what they do in free agency? You start to say to yourself, okay, where are we going to go? And I'm going to run through that real quick. And you guys know this already. But where are we right now? Okay, let's just get into this. Matthew Boyd, Cade Horton, right? Who's going to be the rookie of the year, I still believe. Jamison Tyone, kind of at the top of your rotation. Justin Steele will be back at some point. I mean, he's already throwing. We see him throwing. Then after that, there's a drop-off. Javier Assad, who was injured, and we didn't see him hardly at all last season. Is it a guy like, obviously Shota Imanaga, if they sign him? Colin Ray, do they want to bring those two back? Imanaga and Ray have club options, so it's the Cubs that they can figure out. Is it Ben Brown? Is it Jackson Wiggins, who I felt like could have helped the Cubs this year? They didn't feel the same way. And he's just been kind of like Horton, but even more so when it comes to dealing with injuries, but great stuff. And then, where do you go from there? Jordan Wicks is another guy that the Cubs could be interested in putting in the rotation. I feel like some of these other guys, though, solidify the rotation and would help this team a lot. I've been partial to Dylan Cease. I feel like they're pretty left-handed heavy. I would want to go out and get a right-hander that could help you win. I think there are people in the organization that never wanted to see Cease go. And for that reason, look, it makes a lot of sense. And when the World Series is over and you see what's going on, the other thing would be trades. And we talked about Seth Lugo being a guy. What are the Twins going to do? You look for those mid-level, small market teams that have to get rid of payroll, pretty good pitchers that you can get, that you have the money to pay for. You send them prospects and maybe you make a deal and you add those guys. But I feel like the Cubs rotation could be better, and I'm sure that they feel the same way. And I hope that they build it just like they did last year, but maybe with a little more punch. Whereas you have 7 or 8 guys that can help you start. And then at the top of the rotation, you feel really good about the pitchers that you throw out there. The Dodgers, they had a ton of injuries throughout the season, and they all seem to get healthy towards the end of the season. And now going into the World Series, they're loaded, and they have a lot of those guys healthy. And that's kind of the way that baseball goes too, right? Like, who's healthy at the right time? But at the end of the day, when you look at what the Cubs did to win a World Series, and that's really our textbook to go on when you won a World Series, in the last how many years since 1908 won, you look at that rotation and yeah, they were healthy, but they were also really good, right? Jake Arrieta, Cy Young Award winner, John Lester, one of the greats of that era of baseball, John Lackey, Travis Wood. I mean, you look at that and you're like, you know what? That they had a lot of guys that could get outs. And I feel like for the Cubs, if they want to really contend for a World Series, you need great starting pitching. And I know that the trend in the game right now is all these relievers and the shorten the game, but you can't do that over the course of a season. You have to have starting pitching. You got to save your arms. And so how much money are the Cubs willing to spend? And then the other part of this that's going to become a big issue this time next year is when you look at the contract between the players and the owners, and could there be a strike, and who wants to spend money knowing that there's another collective bargaining agreement ahead? And it's probably not going to be pretty, which would be bad for us as fans. It would be bad for the players, and it would be bad for the owners if they can't work out a deal that everyone's happy with. And it kind of feels like that might not happen, so we'll find out. Now, I mentioned this in the open, and I think a lot of us, that series with the Brewers ended, and it was a pretty, really, it was a good series. And honestly, until I saw all the stuff from William Contreras, I was like, you know what? I'd like to see the Brewers win. They played us tough. I like the way they play the game. And then all of a sudden, like, you're getting trolled by one of their players, and you're like, you know what? Go out there and just get swept. And they did. They weren't even really competitive to me. But I do like their manager a lot, Pat Murphy. And I like that the fact that he's not afraid to kind of tell it like it is. And, and I know this is a little bit old, but I haven't talked about it yet. And he acknowledged that grueling series with the Cubs was emotionally draining. And that, it kind of sucked the life. Zapped A lot of us, biggest moment of their careers. The problem is that in the postseason, you can't have that. You got to keep going. And the only reason I'm saying that is that good. And then the best meme, I follow Cubs memes, and they put out, if you guys haven't seen it yet, they're great. I would love to have a partnership with them to put their memes on here. So if any of you guys from the Cubs memes watch, please just message me. It was a meme where it was Rick Monday, who is famous for being in LA playing the Dodgers. Somebody tried to burn an American flag on the field. He was playing outfield for the Cubs at the time. And he runs and grabs the flag before the guys could burn it, and became such a hero in LA that they ended up signing him. And he still works there. He's one of the broadcasters. He's like a historically great Dodger, but he was with us at the time. And they had a meme of him stealing the L flag away when the Dodgers had clinched the World Series. I thought it was hilarious, and I like a lot of their stuff. But anyway, so that's how it goes, right? All right, let's talk about some minor league stuff. And that's right up my alley. And I'm going to start with this. Cubs in Arizona Fall League action. I don't even know, to me, like what the Fall League really means, because there's always inflated stats. But I think it's important. You send your prospects there and you see what they can do. One guy that has really stood out is Owen Ayers. He's a catcher for the Cubs. Guy's hitting like 360, a couple of home runs, 8 runs batted in, walking some, doing his thing. And the other guy is Cole Mathis, first and third, kind of a corner infield type dude. And he's batting 400, slashing 400, 474, and 600. And huge OPS at 1,074. And he's one of the best players on this team so far, and someone that the Cubs are hoping really kind of makes a difference. Now, you're not talking about a whole lot of at-bats, but 7 RBIs and 15 at-bats. And it's all the best prospects from different teams playing together. So that's cool. And if I lived in Arizona, I'd go to these games. It'd be fun to watch. One guy who has struggled there that I really wonder about, good guy, dealt with some injuries, is Ed Howard. He just can't hit. He's like 1 for 14. He was injured most of the season. Would have been with the AA Cubs in Knoxville, and just really hasn't had it come together with the bat. He's a first-round pick, and he's a guy that's got to start stepping up, or, he'll get lost in the shuffle, right? But definitely worth checking out. And I'll keep an eye on that. Some of those guys, like the Owen Caseys and the Pete Crow Armstrongs, they would go there and just rip that league in half, and gave you an idea of going into the next season, which guys to keep an eye on and who's legit. There's a difference between, and you're not going to get everyone's best playing in, it almost feels like summer ball, even though it's winter or fall, but it's almost like playing in the Cape when you talk about college guys, right? Well, you go there and it's like, hey, look, everybody's watching, scouts are there. And even though it's kind of an all-star team, who's taking advantage of that and who's playing good baseball. And so we'll watch that. Now, a guy that's not in that league but is in that complex is the Cubs' first-round pick out of Wake Forest, Ethan Conrad. And I saw some video and some pictures of Conrad working in Arizona. Now, this was a left-handed outfielder that people who have seen him tell me, like, look, Cubs got a really good player here. Now, he was hurt, and he didn't play after, like, April. I think he got injured in March last year at Wake. And the Cubs might have got him with their pick because of the fact that he didn't play. I mean, you're taking a risk. It's your first-round pick. You don't want to make a mistake with that pick. And the Cubs really haven't. I mean, they drafted Cam Smith before Conrad, and he's in the big leagues playing for the Astros. And the Cubs got Kyle Tucker for him, and that could be a trade that the Cubs hate The guy before that was Matt Shaw. Look at him. He's in the big leagues playing right now. Ethan, I'm going to say Cade Horton, right? He's in the big leagues and is going to win Rookie of the Year. So the scouting department's done a really good job of getting these guys. So Conrad is someone to keep an eye on, obviously. I mean, he's your first-round pick, but he's also pure swinger from the left side, a guy with a lot of power and potential. And coming back from a shoulder injury, what's that going to look like? And is he going to be able to contribute next year? Sure. I mean, he's got to, right? So the fact that he's there and he's working and he's getting better, healthier every day is a good sign for the Cubs. But we'll see how this roster is constructed. I mean, we still got some games to go in the World Series, and then things will start to fall in place as far as the offseason. Who's going to opt out? Who the Cubs gonna pick up their contracts? I mean, are they gonna keep Colin Ray? Are they gonna keep Shota Imanaga? Some of the guys in the bullpen. Are they gonna keep them too? Kittredge, do you pick up that option? I certainly hope that they do, because pitching is such a premium, but so are young power hitters. And we saw last year, like as good as the offense was at the beginning of the season, the team struggled to score runs after Tucker got hurt and Pete Crow Armstrong and Seiya Suzuki kind of went into a slump. And then Suzuki busted out in the postseason and really showed you what he's capable of, right? So, I mean, going back to, kind of the situation with the Cubs, right? You got right now, I would say Moises Ballesteros is your DH. I'm still, until Kyle Schwarber signs with the Phillies, I'm not counting the Cubs out on that. I think it would be just an unbelievable pop, and the marketing aspect of it to me, besides the fact that the guy's eventually going to hit 500 home runs. Can you imagine that homecoming if he'd want to do that? You got two outfielders with no trade clauses that I think really hurt the Cubs with Ian Happ and Seiya Suzuki. I think if you didn't have the trade clauses on those guys, you might trade one of them, probably Happ, but you're not going to be able to do that. You got Pete Crow Armstrong in center. He's going to win a Gold Glove. Dansby Swanson signed long-term at shortstop. Matt Shaw at third. Could you do something there? I'm not saying trade him, but he's a utility guy too, right? He can play shortstop and second base. You got Nico Horner's going to win a Gold Glove at second. Michael Busch. There's no chance I'm getting rid of Busch. He's becoming one of the best first basemen in the game. And then that catcher position, right, with Carson Kelly, or what are the Cubs going to do with Reese McGuire, Miguel Amaya? I still think the Cubs, I've said this before, I think they should look to Baltimore, maybe a blockbuster to grab Retchman from them. But we'll find out. That's kind of where the roster looks right now. We talked about the starting rotation already. The bullpen's almost impossible to predict just because of the fact that you got so many guys that could come and go. And big league teams don't really look at bullpen guys as long-term, right? Like it's almost like 1 year at a time with those guys. And so, what direction would the Cubs move in that capacity as well? So a lot to get into, but I just kind of wanted to just brush on this a little bit as we start to build towards that. So thank you guys again. Make sure that you are a subscriber. I appreciate all of you guys for hanging out, man. It's so much fun to talk baseball with you on a daily basis. I'm excited about the World Series. What do you think about the matchup? Do you like the matchup? Do you want some of this Cubs baseball channel gear? Got my hat on right now. Hit that QR code, pick some games. I know we're doing a lot of football right now. We'll do the World Series as well. AveD, Mick Nation, that is our Web3 home. And you guys are awesome. We're not to the point where we got a whole lot of stuff right now, but that could change in a second. So we're kind of just like setting up for this run that's going to happen on free agents and all the stuff that will take place in the GM meetings and winter meetings and all of that stuff. Free agency and trades, all of that is dead ahead. So thank you guys for being here. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, hit the bell. You can even make a Cardinals joke if you want to. Some of you guys hate when I say that, but I mean, come on. All right. Talk to you tomorrow.